think I've told you guys this. I started my career in radio, and back then I used to interview a lot of celebs. I think it's very difficult to choose one, especially when you've been doing campaigns for a really long time, irrespective of how many years you've worked with the industry. Is mazaa nahi aaya.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, what is your favorite out-of-the-box campaign idea out of all the campaigns that you have done so far?
I think it's very difficult to choose one, especially when you've been doing campaigns for a really long time. But one of my favorite ones is definitely Dekho Magar Pyar Se.
Bosch and Long one.
Yeah, it's the Bosch and Long film, right? Because somewhere we realized that if you were to talk about contact lenses and if you just go the pharma way, right, there's very little stickiness. So you need to do something a little different, and which is where we sort of picked up Dekho Magar Pyar Se as a tagline that you generally see behind trucks. And the fact that the director who actually wrote this script, someone from my team, she had grown up seeing her mom squint, right, when she couldn't see clearly. And it almost felt like she was angry at her, right? And it was a very human emotion, it was very real. And that insight married to the fact that Dekho Magar Pyar Se is written behind trucks, which also, coincidentally, also speaks back to the fact that the eyewear category can use a context of eyes. That's sort of came together and became the campaign.
Like, abhi, jaise we have talked about new campaign ideas and the campaigns that have previously done. Like, during the course of time, you might have worked with different celebrities on different campaigns. I'm sure of it.
Yes.
Like, are there any instances that you like to tell us or you recall that were really funny and just fun?
Yeah, there are so many, man. I think one of the most fun ones was with Mandira Bedi, right? A bit of background there. I'm obviously a very, very old person. So when I was young, which was at least 1,000 years ago, I grew up watching this serial called Shanti, right, where Mandira Bedi used to play a very pivotal role. And first off, it was very interesting to see her in life, right? And I told her that, you know, I grew up watching you on serials, and she was very sweet about it. And then we started shooting, and I remember the director was like sort of doing retakes, and he was also being a little lax. And that's the first time I saw what a celebrity tantrum is supposed to be. At one point, Mandira said that, guys, enough of this. If we are not rolling in the next 10 minutes, I'm out of the set. You know, your film can go wherever it wants to go. And everyone suddenly started running around, and in the next 10 minutes, we started rolling. And then she was very amiable, right? And I was a little mind blown. I was like, because here she was really angry, right? And now she was absolutely perfect. And we were supposed to wrap up at 5, and we did wrap up at 5. And when she was leaving, she actually said that, you know, sometimes we have to do this, not because we want to throw a tantrum, but sometimes people just get too lax around us. Right. Just to get them back on track, it's something that I had to do. But the intent was not to sort of throw a celebrity tantrum, which I think sort of made a lot of sense.
Okay. So, any other similar instance regarding any other celebrity?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of these. But the problem is, I think naming so many celebrities might get a little...
No, you don't name one, but just tell us what happened.
Not in particular to digital marketing, but back in the day, so interestingly enough, I think I've told you guys this, I started my career in radio. And back then I used to interview a lot of celebs. And I remember there was a show called Kya Panchvi Paas Se Tez Hain with Shah Rukh Khan. Right? So I had the privilege of interviewing Shah Rukh Khan at that point in time. And it was a press junket. I think it was at Meridian or one of these hotels. And I was waiting with a whole bunch of people, right? And Shah Rukh Khan was a little late. He was running about 45 minutes, an hour late. And everyone was sort of starting to get a little antsy, right? It was very warm. And eventually he walked in. There's a reason why they call him King Khan, right? So the moment he walked in, obviously there was a lot of furor. Bodyguards came in, reporters were sort of running around the place, etc. But he's like, guys, I'm really sorry. I know I'm late, but we'll do this quickly. But right from the moment he stepped in, right, he was so nice, he was so cordial. And I remember this one particular instance where obviously there are multiple reporters throwing questions at him, and he's very comfortably sitting there. And we've seen Shah Rukh Khan smoke on screen in Mithun Mukherjee. So I have this very clear memory of him sitting down, lighting a cigarette and just sort of smoking and casually answering questions. And this one woman, right, she kept trying to answer a question, but somehow other people would sort of cut her over and get their questions asked. And eventually, you know, she started getting a little angry about it. And Shah Rukh Khan noticed it, right? So at one point, he suddenly said, guys, can we just stop for a second? All the clamoring that was happening around him. So obviously, King Khan, when he says quiet, everyone quietens down. Right? So everyone got quiet. And then he tells this woman, "Aap kuch pooch rahi thi, aap please bataiye." And at that point, it's a beautiful thing, right? But ironically, that woman was like, "Nahi, ye koi tarika nahi tha." I was like, "Dude, Shah Rukh Khan just asked you to ask him a question. Just ask the bloody question, right? But eventually, I think she got to it, and in spite of this, he was very patient. He's like, "Yeah, ma'am, I understand, but please, can you just ask your question?" So and this happened like a really, really long time back, but it stays very fresh in my head, purely because we see these celebs in a certain light, and when you see them up close and personal, you realize that they're a very different people from who you see them on street. So yeah, that was another interesting one.
So you have worked on multiple ad campaigns. So like, are there any common obstacles that you face every time while working on an ad campaign or while working in a team?
Yeah, I mean, the most obvious one, unfortunately, which does not go away, irrespective of how many years you worked with the industry, is mazaa nahi aaya, right? You could start working in the industry today, right? And you could continue working for 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. You'll still meet this one client who would always come up to me and be like, mazaa nahi aaya. And honestly speaking, it's a very, very difficult feedback to sort of understand, right? Because, for example, you saying mazaa nahi aaya or me saying mazaa nahi aaya might come from completely different points, right? You might not like the writing of it. I might not like the setting of it. Or a third person might just not like the duration of it. They might think it's dragging, right? So breaking that feedback down, right, is something that we often struggle with at times. But now with so many mazaa nahi aayas in my kitty, right, over the years, I have learned to read clients and understand what is it that they mean by mazaa nahi aaya. The point is not to get, and this happens with a lot of creative people, right? People get frustrated when someone says mazaa nahi aaya. The trick is to not get frustrated. The trick is to try and dig deeper by asking questions again and again and saying, fair, I hear you, mazaa nahi aaya. But what is it that you personally did not like? Is it the setup? Is it the duration of it? Is it the script of it? Is it the characterization, the color, the delivery, the product fitment? There can be so many things, right? And all these things sort of play a very important role. And eventually you sort of get to the answer. But if you, as a creative person, just hear this phrase and you're like, "Arey yaar, ye aisa hi hai," then you're setting yourself up for failure. I mean, the client has nothing to lose. So yeah, that's one of those things.
Also, there is this one other question that I would like to ask. Like people like us who are moving into the realm of digital marketing, we are often confused between where to go, like performance marketing or creative marketing. How do you say that one figures out where to go?
I quoted Shah Rukh Khan earlier, right? Yeah. That incident. I think there's a dialogue of Shah Rukh Khan from some film, which I forget now, where he says ki awaaz dil se aani chahiye. And I think that's the truest thing. Because unfortunately, today's day and age, a lot of people, right, are driven by the monetary aspect of it. Yeah. They think that, okay, if I am getting, I don't know, 70 rupees to do creative and maybe 100 rupees to do performance or 70 rupees to do performance, I should choose one over the other. The decision should not be based on that, right? Because money only is a means to an end, right? At the end of the day, the only thing that's going to keep you coming back to your job every single day is something that you like doing, right? One thing that people often say is, I should wake up and want to go to work, right? If a job does not make you feel that way, then all the money in the world is not worth it. I mean, that's what I personally believe, right? Of course, there's also the saying that it's always better to cry in a luxury car versus in your own bedroom. But that said, right, at the end of it, it boils down to what is it that you really want to do. Some people are more driven to numbers, right? For them, of course, performance makes so much more sense. But if you are someone who's grown up reading books, if you're someone who's really been very excited about, I don't know, elocution contests in schools, participated in quizzes, love telling stories, love hearing stories, right? Then maybe creative is your thing. That's a better way of choosing.
So figuring out that mazaa nahi aaya in your life really plays an important role.
Yeah, man. Whatever floats your boat, as they say.
If a person decides to go into the realm of creative marketing, ditching performance, how important is it for that person to know about crunching numbers?
It always helps.
Okay.
Fortunately, unfortunately, creative people try to stay away from numbers, right? But increasingly, the world is becoming more strategic, right? It's more strategy driven. So some of the best creative folks in the world are basing their campaigns on actual numbers, right? On actual human insights. And human insights will often come from numbers, right? For example, if I were to give you a very random stat of, 8 out of 10 people wake up after 8 a.m. in the morning, right? Versus saying that, hey, can I make a campaign about people waking up early? Of course, the first thing feels a lot more believable, right? It feels like it's got a grain of truth. That comes from numbers. That comes from performance. That comes from crunching numbers and so on and so forth. So just being more aware of the world, right? And not saying, okay, Excel sheets is something that I dealt with in school. Now that's a part of my life and I'm not going to touch again. It's probably not the smartest thing to do. Right. Because the more your campaigns are based in the real world, the stronger they are. Right. I mean, that's what I feel. So you can't ignore it. It's worthwhile to embrace.
So since you have been there in creative marketing for so long, how important is, like, how critical is passion in your line of work?
It's everything, man. And I'll tell you why. It's because how you are as a person, right, gets reflected in the work that you put out. Right? If you're a huge fan of music, right, maybe you play the guitar, maybe you love to sing in the shower, you will automatically try to create campaigns which are built around music. If you love movies, right, if you're a huge Shah Rukh Khan fan, for example, right, you've been talking about Shah Rukh Khan for some reason a lot, then you will automatically want to write more films, right? So it's very, very important to keep experimenting in our line of work, right? To be extremely passionate about multiple things, right? And not just one thing, of course. I have this thing where I say you need to go deep and you also need to go wide. If you really love something, for example, if you love movies, become an expert in movies, right? You should be able to tell me about world cinema. You should be able to tell me what was Shah Rukh Khan's first film, you know, what camera did Christopher Nolan use, and so on and so forth, right? And at the same time, also go wide, right? Know a little bit about a lot of things, because the wider you go, the more interesting your creative solutions are, right? Of course, you can learn about marketing and you can learn about how things are supposed to be, right? But imagine this, it's like reading about a piano and reading sheet music versus actually sitting down on the instrument and playing it, right? You can only learn so much by reading, right? Unless and until you sit at the piano and play it and fiddle around it and experiment and tinker with it, right? You won't be able to really connect with the instrument. So that's very true of the creative line of work as well. So it's very, very important to be passionate, right? I spend almost 60% of my interview time with people I talk to just discussing films, music, what do they love to eat, do they love going out on walks, do they have wanderlust, right? How creative are they in terms of creating their own content? Are they comfortable in front of the camera, right? Are they okay to be put in the spot, right? Can they stand up in the room and start talking to people, right? Because these are very, very important things. And increasingly, right, presentation is becoming as important as creativity in our line of work, right? You might have a great idea, but if you can't convince me or present it well, that idea is going to die, right? So it's become very, very imperative to have good communication skills, good presentation skills, and that will definitely take you the distance.
Like, we know that you have that passion and love for advertising, and it was equally imparted to all of us at IID. Like, it was so amazing to attend your lectures. Like, I can only imagine the class being so full and it was really fun studying.
Thank you. I think you guys are a very enthusiastic lot, right? Very energetic lot. And that energy, right, that passion is what's going to take you guys the distance. So best of luck.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.